So our next stage is to actually create an environment out of it. So this is like great and all, but it's probably only useful enough for a feature wall or a canopy or something like that. But what we need to do is create space with it. So to do that, I'm going to kind of stick with a similar principle here, but I'm going to just select all of these surfaces and move them out. Go back to my top view, and I'm going to create another surface. But this one I can modify in a different way. So let's just kind of create one that's sort of similar to what I just had. And this one I'm only going to cut 2 times. But I want to show you another way to do a cut. You don't have to split with a surface. You can also split with a line. So if I want to just draw using the line command, something approximately here to there, and something approximately here to here. Actually, is that what I want? That's short. No, sorry. I want to go the other way. I want to go kind of... So make sure that you're cutting sort of kind of in the same direction there like that. It doesn't have to be extreme. Yeah. So when you activate the split command now, it'll ask you for the objects to split, which is the surface, and the cutting objects, which are the 2 lines. And provided they are coplanar, meaning that the lines are drawn exactly in plane with the surface itself, that'll work. And so now these are each individually cut. But I want you guys to be aware of something. This is just an option that's available to you. If I have my lines above the model, so these lines are kind of just floating above there, I can... Will split have it? I don't think it will. No, but trim will. Notice that I introduced trim in AutoCAD, correct? So trim also works in Rhino. This may or may not be the most appropriate time to show you this, but if you need to just trim a surface out or trim the edge of a surface, it has this thing called apparent intersections, and some other commands have it, but mostly just trim. So if you activate the trim command and I don't want this end piece, if you turn on apparent intersections equals yes, even though these lines don't match planar, I can select this line as a cutting object, hit enter, and cut off that surface with it. In the top view it works fine. If I go over here to my perspective view, then I can kind of finagle it where it needs to be. Actually, will that work? I think I need to select it from this view. Oh, maybe it doesn't work in perspective. I think it has to be an orthogonal view. Anyway, I was just showing you that as an option. So I'm splitting it. I want to select that. I want to split it by these 2 lines. And there we go. I've got 3 separate surfaces. So now you don't need to do a trim. No, no, you don't need to make a plane. You can do lines. Oh, so I didn't even move them back into place, and split just worked in the top view. I didn't even notice that. So we're good. You guys can do it in the top view. Anyway, so I need to rotate these back up, kind of like I'm creating walls now. And I'll kind of get at why I'm doing that. But I'm going to select this endpoint here and do another rotate 3D from connection point to connection point. I'll go out there, and you don't need to rotate these fully vertically, but I'm just going to kind of get them approximately vertical. Rotate 3D again. So this is what we're going to have. And I'll get rid of those lines so it's not confusing. So this is kind of important now. I have to create a surface across the top of this to give it some enclosure, right? And I gave you, as a planar tool, I gave you the surface from 3 or 4 points. That's significant because it creates either a planar surface or potentially a non-planar surface. And what that looks like is this. If I activate that command and I try to go from all 4 points, it's going to create a warped surface. So I go from that point to here to there. and that's what I get. Yeah, it's parabolic. So what we need to do to avoid that is segment it and triangulate it. That's how you're going to get some rectified surface out of that. And you always have an option. So this is something that Iggy wants me to make sure that you know. When you have this kind of weird, twisted roof condition, you always have an option for an opposing ridge, either a valley or a ridge. So it looks like this. You can use the same command, but you only do 3 points. So I can go from this high point to the 2 midpoints, and then instead of clicking, oh, whoops. High point there and that. And instead of clicking a 4th point, hit enter and it creates a triangulated plane. Do the same thing at the opposite and you've created a valley. So, you know, what's that? Yeah, a ridge would be the opposite corners. So you go back, and if you want the ridge, you go from high point to high point to high point. So I go high point, and then low. And I do the same thing over here, high point, and low. And then you get a ridge where it pops up. So for those of you who are in design, that's very, very significant for you guys to know, apparently. So I think it is too. It's just funny that that's like a specific thing. Usually it's kind of a funny discovery. So anyway, I don't mind whether or not you guys go with valley or ridge for this particular exercise, but what we want to focus on is actually not the enclosure itself. It's more so the what am I trying to say? The sort of open facade, right? So now, not only do we have the trouble with the roof, but if I need to create a front facade, that also has to be triangulated, or else I'm going to get, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, a warped surface here as well. So the whole thing is twisting. And there are a few things that you can do to fix that, but ultimately what I want to show you guys is how do you cap it off with a solid surface. So I'm going to stop this video here because it's kind of a complete thought, and I'll move into another one here in a minute. But are there any questions about what I've just done?
What do you do after your 3rd point? So you don't
just hit enter. Yeah. Hit enter to complete the command. Okay.